Europe, 1939. The scars of the Great War had not yet healed. Graves still dotted the French countryside. Endless rows of white crosses, silent witnesses to the millions who had fallen 2 decades earlier. The world had promised never again. But history had other plans. France, proud, powerful, and wounded, believed itself ready for whatever came next. It had the strongest army in Europe on paper. It had allies, Britain, Belgium, and the might of its colonial empire. And it had a wall, an iron fortress stretching across its eastern border, the Maginot Line. Politicians promised it was unbreakable. Generals said it made France invincible. And the people believed them. Yet behind the calm, the storm was forming. One that would shatter not just walls, but illusions. In Berlin, a new power had risen, Adolf Hitler, a man who saw weakness in the peace that followed 1918. To him, France was the old enemy, the nation that humiliated Germany after World War I, that dictated terms at Versailles, that carved his homeland apart. He vowed revenge, swift, total, and absolute. To understand why France fell in 6 weeks, we must go back 20 years earlier, to the Treaty of Versailles, 1919. The war to end all wars had ended in devastation. Germany was defeated, disarmed, and humiliated. But in victory, France sowed the seeds of its own future defeat. Marshal Ferdinand Foch, the French general who had crushed the German army, looked at the treaty and said, "This is not peace. It is an armistice for 20 years. He was right almost to the exact year. The treaty crippled Germany's economy and national pride. Factories closed. Inflation devoured savings. A loaf of bread cost billions of marks. And amid chaos, anger found a voice that promised to restore greatness. That voice was Hitler's. As France rebuilt its cities, Germany rebuilt its soul, in secret at first, then openly. By the 1930s, Hitler had torn up the treaty, rebuilt the army, and reclaimed the Rhineland, right under France's nose. And France did nothing. Years of political paralysis, fragile governments, and fear of another bloodbath had drained the nation's will to act. When Hitler marched, France hesitated. When he bluffed, France blinked. And when he gambled, France lost without firing a shot. France had learned all the wrong lessons from the last war. It had seen the horror of trench warfare, the endless mud, the machine guns, the slaughter, and swore never to fight that kind of war again. So it built the Maginot Line, a massive chain of underground bunkers, artillery casemates, and fortresses stretching from Switzerland to Luxembourg. It was a marvel of engineering. Deep tunnels, steel doors, living quarters, power plants, a city beneath the ground. Politicians toured it proudly. Newspapers called it France's Great Wall. But it was also a prison of the mind. The French army became defensive, slow, and cautious. Generals prepared to fight the last war, while Germany prepared to fight the next. Then came 1956, the Suez Crisis. Britain tried to show the world that it still mattered, that it could still command the seas. Troops were sent, ships were deployed. The old pride stirred again. But this time, America said no. Without Washington's approval, Britain had no strength left to stand on its own. The illusion shattered. The world no longer feared Britain's navy. It pitied it. The empire's final mask had fallen. Its power was gone, its influence a shadow of what it once was. The 1960s arrived with color, rebellion, and change. The old world gave way to the new. The Beatles sang, youth danced, and Britain found a new kind of power. Not in empire, but in culture. Its music, its fashion, its art conquered hearts where its armies once had. It was no longer a ruler of nations, but a creator of dreams. The empire of guns and ships was gone, replaced by an empire of words, ideas, and melodies. Britain had transformed, not vanished, but reborn. Yet, in the quiet corners of old London, a certain sadness lingers. Beneath the grandeur of its museums, beneath the marble statues of kings and conquerors, lies the echo of what was lost. The docks that once sent fleets across the world now host tourists and silence. The palaces still shine, but their glory feels borrowed from the past. The empire that once wrote the rules of the world now studies them in history books. The red lines on the old maps have faded, but the stories they left behind still shape the modern age. Because the empire never truly disappeared, it dissolved into legacy. The English language circles the globe. British inventions define modern life. Its legal systems, its parliaments, its literature, all remain woven into the world's foundation. The empire's shadow still stretches across time, long after the sun set on its power. Britain no longer rules the world, but it still whispers through it. Britain won the war, but in winning, it lost everything that had once defined it. Its empire, its wealth, its dominance, all gone. What remained was something humbler, perhaps wiser. A nation no longer feared, but respected. No longer commanding, but contributing. It became a storyteller of its own past, a witness to its own transformation. The conqueror had become the chronicler. The sun that never set has finally faded, not into darkness but into reflection. Because no victory is free, and no power lasts forever. Empires rise, empires fall, and time spares no throne. Britain's story is not one of defeat, but of awakening. An empire that learned that power cannot outlive purpose. The cannons have gone silent, the ships have stopped sailing, but the memory remains, bright, haunting, eternal. Britain won the war and lost everything, and in that loss, perhaps it finally found itself.